Hey YouTube, this is Corknut. Welcome back to Space Haven Part 2. Picking up where we left off. Everyone's still sleeping. We've got Emerson, Jimmy, Madeline, and Tala. And we had been in the process of decommissioning this space wreck here. And we still have a little bit of mining left to do. We can mine some base metals and some noble metals on these two asteroids off in the distance. For now, though, we're going to watch our team in high speed as they sleep and hopefully wake up in the morning. We've been building a wing on the side of our spaceship here with the plan of putting in some an industrial section over here. Jimmy and Tala both woke up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. That's nice. We'll also probably want to expand our crew quarters a bit, give them some more privacy, and just in general make this a more pleasant place to live. Let's walk through the overlays to see what's going on. Right now we have power to most of the ship. After that we can see the temperature overlay, which shows green, meaning it's a place they can live comfortably. And we can see it's a little hotter on this side of the ship, a little colder on this side of the ship. So we might want to add another temperature regulator too to balance that out a bit. Next, we have the comfort. So this ship is really uncomfortable now. There's a tiny little bit negative comfort zone in the corner, but for the most part, it's very negative, which generally means it's loud, cold, and hard to breathe. With very little aesthetic value for the passengers. Let's pause it here as we go through the rest of these. This is just showing if there's any available jobs. The jobs overlay, I've been looking at this a bit. It is actually quite nice. It shows you where available jobs are. You can click on these jobs and see what kind of job it is. So this is a construct job, meaning somebody's going to go there, drive this pod around, and probably go and finish the construction here. So we've got what looks like 2 construct jobs ready to go. Jimmy's already taken this one on. Tala's taken that one on. And over here, it's just a transfer job or a logistics job, which is, in this case, an energy rod, which is probably going to get transferred into the power generator. Let's take a look. Madeline's going to go and do that one. Meanwhile, that leaves Emerson, I believe, with nothing to do. So Emerson's taken over some jobs, so he is probably transferring whole blocks, I would guess. Let's take a look. What's in his inventory? Oh, he's transferring water. Okay, so Emerson's doing the plant jobs, which I missed here. We've got botany job and another botany job that no one's taken over yet. So Emerson's going to go and be idle for a while this section of the ship gets built. So while they're doing that, we do have a couple of walls in place here already, but let's tell them to add some more of these walls. We'll leave a space in the middle for a door. Wall this area off. And once that's done, we can start moving or building the industry in there. I do believe what we wanted to do was get to the point where we could construct our own hull blocks. If we take a look at resources, we remember that hull blocks can be built in the assembler. The assembler needs steel, so before we can make hull blocks, we'll need some way to refine metal into steel, which is this. So assembler, hull blocks to steel. That looks fairly straightforward. It's only 2 fabricators we'll need. First is the metal refiner, which we're going to put down immediately, right there. We're also going to need some power to power that up. Once there's more room in there, we're going to put down the second refiner, which will be an assembler. We'll also want pretty much all of these other assemblers eventually. So this is just going to be our general assembly area. We'll stick a door. We'll finish the walls. Make sure that that area is separated from the rest of the ship. Eventually, we might even make this, or we might just plug up the vent, or make that a atmospheric suit. So there is a special type of door here, a spacesuit door, which if you put that there, it means they'll put their spacesuits on every time they walk through that door. And you can use that to kind of isolate an area of your spaceship. Maybe you don't want to keep the atmosphere in there. It might be nice to have a way to vent this whole area into space, vent the atmosphere out there, because these assemblers all generate a lot of heat, and I imagine they're going to be prone to accidents and mishaps and fires. So it might be nice to have a way to handle emergencies in the assembly area. All right, so let me take a look. Maybe we did actually finish retrieving. No, there's somebody there retrieving items. Right now, there's still quite a bit to transfer. And once they're done transferring, we're going to transfer some of this scrap. Although, from my experience, generally, you don't get a whole lot of value out of the scrap. Infra scrap is actually fairly useful because it's really easy to make infra blocks out of that. If we look at the recycler, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's our recycler. Sorry, that's our tools facility. We do have a recycler, don't we? Yes, here's our recycler. We're going to move this into this area also. The recycler can make infra scrap. One infra scrap turns into half of an infra block. So every 2 scrap, we can make 1 block. So that's a pretty good deal. But if you look at the rest of them, hull block, we need 5 hull scrap to make 1 hull block. Energy scrap, we need 1 to 0.2. That's 5 to 1 to get energy rods. So that will be useful because we are going to eventually run out of these energy rods. But the ratio there is just not that good, although we do get infra blocks out of that also. Tech scrap, 5 to 1 for tech blocks versus these electronics components, which until we can make our own, that's really the best we're going to do. As you can see, this second number here, 0, means that we're completely out of those right now. So we are going to want to use the scrap to generate those until we can make them ourselves. The other things to keep an eye on are food. So we have processed food and space food. The best source early on for food is really for finding wrecks and stealing food off there. Once we have a viable way to produce more food from our grow beds, then we won't have to be so conscious of what these values are. But early on, they're going to be eating food every day, and we're going to run out of that pretty quickly. Hyperfuel is another critical resource. We only start with 9. You're going to get hyperfuel by refining in one of your resource plants. I believe it is the energy refiner. Yes. So looking at the energy refiner, we're going to need, for every 2 Hyperium, this is a mineable resource, we're going to make 1 hyperfuel. So we're really going to want to focus on finding these Hyperium asteroids, because without those, we're not going to get very far. We only have 9 hyperfuel. I'm not sure yet how many hyperfuel we use for space jumps. From my research, I know that it's related to the efficiency of your hyperdrive versus how many hyperdrives you have. So right now, we're fairly efficient because our total weight is only 1,510 tons. Our hyperdrive is capable of pushing 1,600, but if we get much bigger, we're going to have to add additional hyperdrives. So what I'll probably end up doing is stretching the ship out this way a bit and adding a bank of hyperdrives at the back. I'd really like to start thinking about a theme for the ship. What I'm kind of toying with is the idea of making like a circular UFO shape. We'll see. Maybe I'll come up with something better than that, but that's kind of what's in the back of my mind right now. Sure, if you have any ideas or suggestions for what you'd like to see in our ship design here, let me know. Leave a comment. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what everyone's working on. Emerson here is working on the derelict. He's carrying what looks like a tech block. Yes, he's carrying a tech block back to storage. Jimmy here, working on building the new hull. Madeline looks like she's also working on building the new hole, although she might be done with that. She's mining, it says. And Tala, she's the one who's actually assembling our what we're going to use to make steel plates. Our item fabricator, no, our metal fabricator, metal refinery. So steel plates are going to take carbon, which we have 8 units of carbon. I'm going to call this tons, 8 tons of carbon. Although that doesn't really make sense in terms of the IV fluid. That's a lot of IV fluid if it's 10 tons. Okay, let's just call it units. 5 units of base metals, 8 units of carbon. Carbon is also going to be used in our air generator, I believe, oxygen generator. No, water is an oxygen generator. Carbon's going to be used in our air scrubber. Or is it generating carbon? Produces carbon, sorry. It's removing carbon from the air. Okay, so that's a very slow trickle. As we breathe out, we're producing carbon. Pretty sure there's something that is using carbon besides our metal refinery. I just don't remember exactly what it is. Okay, well, maybe it's nothing that we've created. Oh, maybe it was this. No? Nothing. Okay, no, nothing seems to be using carbon. I'm not worried about it then. Alright, so now that we have a metal refiner, we're going to need to power this, aren't we? What's our power situation? Okay, so it is being powered. It looks like as long as this lightning bolt block is within the power grid, that's how you know if a machine is powered. So these lights are powered because it's hard to see, but that wall space is actually on the power grid. And this power grid here from the generator itself extends into this room. So that into 2 squares into that room. So this thing is getting power. So we're going to tell them to make some steel plates because we're going to be able to turn steel plates into hull blocks. Let's take a look at how that's going to work. Assembler, for every steel plate, we're going to get 2 hull blocks. Half a steel plate equals 1 hull block. We're going to need a bunch of hull blocks. So let's make the assembler. Where should we put this? I guess we should just put this right here. Maybe we're going to move that door. Let's use the fact that we have a lot of power in here, and let's put this right here next to the door. I believe I don't think that blocked the door, although it is. Let me move that actually 1 out so they can walk past it. So we do have 2 spaces to work with here. So we'll put it there. And that way they can walk down this channel here, plus get to it. Plus it'll be powered without having to add more power. That's another issue we're going to run into very quickly is power. Energy blocks here. Okay, maybe we won't want to run into it as soon as I thought. Energy blocks. These power units are going to require energy blocks to make. So if we look at the power, all of these things take 1 energy block to create. So we have 16. We can make a few more power nodes before we really have to worry about it. But that's something to be aware of. If you just try to sprinkle power nodes around your whole base, you're going to run out of energy blocks. You're not going to be able to power your system. So early on, you really want everything to be tight, close together, narrow walkways between them. You're eventually going to have a lot more room and be able to spread out and have more flexibility in your design. But early on, your people are going to be uncomfortable in cramped quarters. And you can see that here. Major discomfort. Really affecting his mood mostly because he's in an uncomfortable environment. He's also got spaceship fatigue or spacesuit fatigue because he's wearing a spacesuit. But Madeline, for instance, is just moderate discomfort because of her environment. All right, so did I set up the job? No, let's just start. Maybe keep making these whenever we have fewer than 5. That'll give us a backlog to be able to make 10 hull blocks. And that'll keep, the reason to use this conditional if is because, that's a job you're telling your people to do. And if I put it on continuous, just somebody's going to have to constantly run over there and feed carbon and metal into this machine. Otherwise, if I just tell them to make it when there's 5, they're only going to have to do that a few times. And we won't have to worry about it anymore. So for every 0.2 of these, we make 1 steel plate, which means one of those will make 5 steel plates. So they're going to have to insert 1 carbon, 1 metal. We'll get 1 steel plate out of that. All right, this item is still being built. Let's turn off our overlay quickly. Let's take a look at what we're doing here. Emerson's on the shuttle. Jimmy's on the derelict still. Madeline is mining. Tala's coming back from constructing the hull. Hull construction still needs a little work. Still have plenty of hull blocks. We'll keep an eye on Tala for now. Tala is going to take some hull blocks. She's restocking with hull blocks. Madeline, meanwhile, is probably looks like she's done mining. The day's almost over, so they didn't quite finish building this hull today. Probably because we're overloaded a little bit with what we want to do. As soon as they finish this wing, I want to start a new wing on this side, because what I want to do is move these shuttles and this mining craft into their own separate bay, and maybe consider making another shuttlecraft. Air blocked by incoming transfer salvage. Airlock blocked, sorry, that generally means that somebody else wants to use that. So notice there's a shuttle missing here. It doesn't look like anybody else wants to do it, and no insufficient resources. Maybe it just means that this is full. That's also possible. No, it says empty. Maybe it's the other side. It could be this one down here that it's complaining about. I can't see the inventory on that one, so I don't know. Interesting. Click to show location. No, it's this one. Airlock blocked. Incoming transfers. Weird. Okay. I don't think it really is blocked. It's just a bit confused. Maybe if we look at the overlay, the job overlays, that would tell us. No. So we've got a transfer coming from here. That's just a water transfer. Which reminds me, we should probably check on our water situation. I think I have them on continuous water production. No, I don't. Okay. So we do have plenty of water for now. We have 11 ice blocks, 26 waters, and no water production scheduled. That's something to keep an eye on if this ever drops. Maybe we want to set a conditional on that. Let's do that for now. Let's say if that drops to less than 10, we'll have them make it. It's just nice to have a good backlog supply of water. They're going to be using water to water the plants, and they're going to be using water to generate air. I don't think they have to drink it, but it's possible that they use it for cooking too. Doesn't actually say, so maybe not. I haven't actually seen him deliver water to that thing ever, so I don't know. It's Emerson here. Speaking of delivering, he's bringing the food to the kitchen, probably getting ready for dinner. Good job, Emerson. Cook it up for everybody. Jimmy is coming home. Madeline's coming home. Tala's coming home. Okay, so everybody's taking their breaks for the day. Jimmy's going to take a break. Good, everybody's done for the day. Let's put them on a little quicker for their break time. We don't have to watch them carry their food around, although it's an interesting route. I guess they're not quite ready for their break. They decided to do a tiny little bit work before they finished their break. Then they went on a break. I like to see that. Madeline, Tala, hard workers. Emerson, he really just wants to be alone, I guess. Yep, look at that. He isn't really liking Madeline or Tala. Jimmy, he thinks is okay. Jimmy's going to come hang out with him. Maybe this is the most comfortable part of the ship right now. That's quite possible. Yep, this is one of the most comfortable parts of the ship right now, so that's why they're heading here. It might make sense to start just walling this area off. There's not a whole lot of room to put a wall here, honestly, so we're going to hold off on that. Maybe wall this corner of the ship off. Definitely we're going to move this. So that's the first thing they're going to do tomorrow. Let's move the recycler into here. That's going to require us to add a new power node in there. No big deal. We'll do that. We might as well, I guess we'll leave the tools where they are for now, but we'll move the recycler into there tomorrow. Everybody's asleep. We will let them sleep in hyper time. And turn this off just so it doesn't make me nervous about the fact that the whole ship is bright red in terms of comfort. Alright, everybody's awake. They're all running into the happy place. Oh yeah, this place with the hull, where the hull is barely built. It's interesting that you don't lose oxygen even though this section isn't built. I guess there's like a, an invisible wall here keeping the air in. If you go and deconstruct this, though, it will definitely vent the oxygen into space. So be aware, if you're going to deconstruct part of your hull, you want to build interior walls first to kind of isolate that, make sure that section's isolated from the rest of the ship. These doors, you can lock them shut so that nobody can get in there. That's also a good thing to do just to keep people out. I haven't seen anybody swept into space yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a possibility. Generally, when the oxygen starts to get low, they all run to the shuttle and put on spacesuits. They're pretty smart. They're pretty good at keeping themselves alive. But just be aware, if you are deconstructing part of your ship, that part of the ship is going to be open to space. You're going to lose oxygen through there. So you're going to want to take steps to make sure that you're, that you have a way of keeping the oxygen in the rest of the ship, or they're going to be incredibly miserable. They're pretty miserable to start with just by being alive in this horrible, uncomfortable zone, which really it's just comfort. That's the only issue they have. Okay, so let's take a look. It's all because of the power generator. So that power generator being in here, that thing must be really noisy. So maybe we want to isolate that into this zone. If we look in here, we can see that the reason it's not uncomfortable in here is because they don't detect the power generator at all. They detect it right against this wall. But on this side of the wall, that's really bad. On this side of the wall, not so much. The refinery in there and the lack of the light is really what's making this negative. Comfort negative 38. Over here, it's really that power generator. The hyperdrive is pretty noisy. That tools facility is noisy. So yeah, we want to isolate all the noisy stuff into these side rooms. Let's turn this into just a big storage bay. Hopefully they'll finish this side of the hull soon. We'll open up this side, which means we're going to have to move this airlock. And what I'm wondering about airlocks is if I add another one. So if you look at the building for this airlock, if I try to build here, you see that it kind of blocks out this whole section here, so I can't build more ship there. So we're going to have to move this airlock before we start building this wing off. And what I noticed about airlocks earlier, I thought you couldn't rotate them, but I was wrong. It looks like you can. So you want your airlock to be pretty close to your storage because that's a lot of what they're going to be doing is moving stuff from the airlock to storage. We can't put it here yet because there's a power node in the floor here. So I'm going to want to move this power node. First, let's check out how that thing's connected. So that power node is just powering this whole block right now. So yeah, let's move this one out of the way and put it there for now. And then we'll put a new airlock down here. I see this light also. Okay. We'll put a new airlock down here, and then we're going to remove this airlock, have an airlock down here, and then we can build out this whole side of the ship. Meanwhile, this thing is built, so we can start making more hull blocks. Hull blocks, yes. So we have 6. We don't have any steel plates yet. Interesting. Why don't we have any steel plates? Can we improve the priority of this? It says make them if there's less than 5. So I guess they just haven't got around to it. Strict jobs. Yeah, so there's a job here. Job here that says priority 6, difficulty 1. And maybe that's what she's doing. No, she's moving that because she's carrying stuff to tile. Carrying to tile means that she's delivering things. All right. Jamie's moving the power grid. We're going to have to relink this up back to this one. That puts everything here that was off the grid for a second back on the grid. And now we're going to add a new build job for that airlock. Might be nice to have 2 airlocks eventually, but for now, still can't build here. Why can't we build here? It must be, I thought it was only 3 wide. Only 3 wide, but it looks like there's a red on that front corner. Oh, because of the light. It's light. Just dismantle this light for now. Well, Emerson is still deconstructing the derelict. All right, the blood spatter from when Madeline, I believe, was badly hurt in here. Jimmy taking stuff from the airlock to storage, helping with the delivery from the derelict. Madeline finishing up some mining of metals. We still have the noble metals once the... Oh no, it looks like that might be it. Oh no, noble metals left. That looks like the last of the base metals. Tala working on the interior construction. She's moving the recycler. Excellent. Recycler no longer on the power grid, so we're going to want to add power for that. Might make sense to put a high power node in this room. I still am a little vague on how the power is working. If you look at power, you can see that this thing's generating 5 per second. And it looks like it's storing a bit. I'm pretty sure as long as this storage number is stable, which it seems to be pretty stable, that means we have enough power coming out of this. Individual power nodes, if you look at their stats, I guess you only see that on here. It tells you that how much they can deliver or their capacity. So the capacity, I imagine, is their storage. But I'm not positive what that means. Maybe that's how much they can deliver through them. So you see these ones, oh, maybe it is their storage. So you see these ones that where their storage is 25. I think this just means we're doing great. So this thing's storing as much as it possibly can. Every now and then you see it dip down. Whereas this, the generator itself, it's very slowly maybe gaining a little bit in storage, but for the most part, it's stable. I think that means we might need a new generator to power all this stuff eventually. The wall units do store more than or have a higher capacity than the floor units, and these big node units have a lot higher capacity than the floor units. And look at that, the capacity just dipped quite a bit there, like maybe that was when he went and did a job. Interesting. But it does seem to recover, so I think we're doing fine. We're just going to stick a wall power unit in here for now. Why not? No, why not? Let's put a floor power unit because it covers a much larger area. And then we'd have to put 2 wall power units on the bottom. Or optionally, we could put maybe a floor node here. We'd still need a wall unit to cover the whole thing. All right, let's do this. Let's put this here so it covers the walls. We can put lights in there later. That'll power the recycler. Let's make sure this is running. Let's make sure this just says make whole block. Make them if we have less than 10. Let's make infra likewise. Infras need electronics components. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense to make infra blocks this way because scrap just seems to be the right way to generate infra blocks. From tech and energy scrap, you'll get infra and energy rods from the energy scrap, and you'll get electronics components from the tech scrap. And there's also infra scrap. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna do this. Soft blocks, on the other hand, also soft blocks, it's really gonna be easy to get those from scrap. Generally, there's not a lot of use for these that I can see other than furniture. So I think we have plenty of those. It's really whole blocks we want to be making. We did manage to make a steel plate, so that's a really good sign. And we're going to use up steel plates to make up our whole block. So we'll just have it set up. Maybe if we have less than 10, let's make some. That seems reasonable. We do have power coming in for the recycler. And as soon as that is built, we'll hook it up, make sure our recycler is doing its job correctly. Uh-oh. All right, so here's an issue is we don't have a very good power linkage. So I wonder, yeah, so it's possible we could just link this here. We can cut this, and then we can link this one back to the main power. That's the kind of problem you're going to have to solve with your power is you can only have 3 lines coming out of any object, so you're going to find the power generator really wants to be, even though it's kind of the center of your power system, you're really going to have to think about, do I really need this to be directly connected to that? And honestly, it might make more sense to have it connected to this and then this feeding down to here. So let's do that. Let's cut this line here, and then let's link this one back to here. And there shouldn't have been an interruption there because this thing stores a bunch of power. So if we had caught it immediately after that, we might have seen that, yeah, its storage dropped a little bit while it was feeding this direction, but we shouldn't have lost any power. All right, let's double check the recycler. Recycler, we're definitely going to want to turn our whole blocks. We don't have any whole scrap. Tech scrap, we have none. Okay, looks like we have no scrap because our salvaging isn't done yet. It does take a long time to salvage a derelict. Maybe if I had more people just dedicated to salvaging, it might take less time. But we're going to see it takes quite a while. If we go to tactical mode, we can take a look at what's left. Okay, everything internal has been transferred, so he should be coming home and being done. We're going to turn on infra, tech, and energy scrap. All 3 of those are fairly valuable. We're kind of low on infra blocks. We're not going to be able to get tech or energy blocks directly out of scrap. If you remember what the recycler can do. Recycler tech scrap turns in infra blocks and electronics, whereas energy scrap turns into infra and energy rods, so you don't get energy or tech blocks. So these are really your main limiters because these are going to be hard to get. You will get some of those just from scrapping the internal components of a derelict. Like when we first got there and on this transfer, there would have been some energy and tech blocks, and that may have been where we got most of these from. But you're not going to get those from scrapping the hull or the rest of the components when we do this salvage operation. The only real good source of tech and energy, if we look at our resources, there's an advanced assembler. That's what we're going to want to shoot. So the advanced assembler is going to need infra, going to need optronics, and it's going to need energy cells. Cell fuser uses fuel energy rods and electronics to make the energy cells. So we're going to need to make an electronic fabricator to get those. We're going to need to make the energy refinery to get these. We don't have any of these crystals yet, so that's kind of gonna be later before we make those. We are getting base metals and noble metals, so it might make sense to set up this production line to make electronics. We are getting some energy rods from... We did get quite a few energy rods, actually, from the derelict. So these two might be next. We haven't seen raw chemicals yet. Raw chemicals are going to be needed to make chemicals, which we're going to process into optronics. So these three are kind of your base. Optronics is like your tier 2. Energy refiner is a tier 1. Assembler is a tier 2. This weaver, unless we're making, luxury goods for them to sleep on, we're not going to need that. Metal refineries, tier 1, we have that. Item fabricator. So this is going to take steel plates and plastics. So where are we going to get plastics? I didn't see plastics anywhere. Ah, here. So chemical refinery is going to make plastics. So in order to make better weapons, we're going to want this chemical refinery. Plastics are going to be carbon and chemicals. So we're going to need to find a source of raw chemicals, which we don't have any yet. So once we've finished mining these base metals, it's probably time to go and look for new resources. Like I said, yeah, we're going to get some materials by doing the salvage operation here, but it's really secondary. These scraps you're getting from here are good to have, but they take a long time to get, and they just don't, you're not going to get a whole lot of resources from those. So right now you can see that they're scrapping the hyperdrive. I think that's what they're doing. Well, one of them is doing. Jimmy's scrapping the hyperdrive while Madeline is scrapping a heater, maybe. So that's what she's working on. We'll let those guys finish, and then it's going to be nighttime. And we will probably pick up for the next recording after they go to bed tonight. If you're enjoying this series, if you want to see more, if you have any suggestion whatsoever for how I might want to lay out the ship, any tips or anything you'd like to see that might make this series more interesting for you, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to press the like button. That's going to help other people see this video, help me get a little notice, make my day a little better, all those sort of things. And I'd just love to hear from you, so leave me a note. All right, meanwhile, it looks like break time has started. Madeline and Jimmy are going to be really slow to get to their break time. Ah, good. Jimmy just finished salvaging that hyperdrive. He didn't have time to pick up any units. It might be wise. Another thing, if you notice, they're taking a really long route. They're taking a lot of really long routes through the ship. They will eventually start to salvage the doors and walls. And honestly, I think if you tell them to do hull salvage, that's when they start doing that. So it might actually be smarter to do hull salvage first, because that'll knock down a lot of the interior obstructions. And then just their pathing is shorter, right? So the whole operation takes a lot less time if they don't have as far to walk. All right, let's take a look. Emerson, you're still not on break. Why are you not on break? Oh, okay. So you were coming back from your mining duties. Good man. They're really pushing their schedules today. Take a look at their schedule. They've all been on break. They're almost completely finished with their free time, and they're just getting done. These are some hard-working spacefarers. Emerson, you're barely going to have time to get food before it's time to go to bed. Tala's back. Actually, Tala's been here this whole time. She's going to go get some food too. Or maybe she's just talking with Emerson. Or maybe she just likes hanging out in this corner because it's the most comfortable corner of the ship. Tala immediately heads to sack. Madeline and Jimmy are both really hungry, so it looks like they are not quite smart enough to get food before they go to bed. At least Emerson got a meal. Could take a look. He had spacesuit fatigue. Hopefully that wears off. Jimmy's feeling a little hungry. Got to be careful, because if they do skip meals, they're going to start starving, and that's going to make them really unhappy. Madeline, a little hungry. Tala did manage to get some food, so she's all right. All right. With that, we're going to let them go to sleep, have a good night's rest. We will continue on next time, continuing to build off the resource wing. It does look like they finished building that wing, so we're going to add a new wing here, add a new airlock, and we'll catch up and do all of the next time. So I hope you've enjoyed this, as I have enjoyed making it, and I will catch you all next time.